I want to share with you about someone that I worked with, and I'm hoping her story will encourage you. When I first met, I'm going to call her Jane. When I first met Jane, she was a very busy lady. She had a home business, so she was sitting at her computer a lot during the day, and she had some special needs children and a toddler. And so she's a busy lady, and because of her special needs children, she needed to go to therapy for them. And she was really frustrated because she just kept gaining at the belly. Now, this was early on in my experience as a T-TAP trainer, and I had experienced something similar to that. Even though my life was crazy, I think hers was a little bit crazier at that time. And one of the things I recognized is that when we are stressed, our body will produce cortisol, and that will help put fat right at the belly, which is kind of counterproductive, right? That's not what we want. And that can happen not just from the stresses of life, but the stresses of life plus when we're trying to do healthy things and we're stressing about it, whether we're stressing about a healthy eating plan or how to fit it all in, or we're stressing about getting enough of a workout in, or even doing more of a workout than our body can handle at that particular time. So she kept starting and stopping because she thought she needed to do a 15-minute workout every day, but she couldn't always fit it in because life, right? And she lived in a small home, so that meant floor work was out, and she could do stepping to a degree, but then her special needs children thought that was playtime. You know, animals and kids, when you're down on the floor or you're marching around or they think you're marching, they want to play, don't they? I've experienced that myself. I can remember putting my toddler in the high chair with some plastic dishes and wooden spoons to keep him entertained while I was doing my workout while my older kids did their school. Where there's a will, there's a way, but sometimes it gets pretty crazy, doesn't it? Well, because of my own experience, I told her, I think maybe you're doing too much. And she just was really hard for her to shift that mindset. And I get it. Well, if I don't do at least this much every day, then I'm just going to keep gaining. But the fact was she was gaining anyway. And I said, it tells me your body's stressed. And I just shared my experience with her. I said, I'm no expert on this, but this is my experience. And I actually crashed and burned because I didn't listen to my body. So I really encouraged her to do just a little bit, a couple moves. And she started doing that. She took my word for it, and she just did 2 or 3 moves, maybe 3 times or 4 times a week. A good week was maybe 4 times in between all the appointments and all taking care of her household and the business. And she was shocked after a month because I promised her, I told her I cannot promise that you're going to lose inches or weight, but I just feel like we need to help your body not feel stressed. But in a month's time, she literally lost 2.5 inches off her waist alone. To be honest, I was shocked too. I wasn't expecting that much for those couple moves, but what happened is we found a sweet spot for her where her body didn't feel stressed, but she could focus on activating for just those few moves instead of wearing herself out with a 15-minute workout. Now, 15 minutes isn't a long workout, but when you have a busy life and you're already stressed, and then you have the stressors of your family, especially when there's other things going on, sick children, maybe you're taking care of your parents, all these other life stresses, and then you try to stress your body by getting healthy, it can be counterproductive if we try to do too much too soon. So that was so exciting for her and me, especially as I've only been training for about a year or two. I mean, as a trainer, I've been training for 2 years. So I really felt, we both felt a sense of accomplishment with that. And I was so excited for her. So she was really excited that she could get going with that. Now, obviously there was ups and downs with that a little bit, but after a while she said, I'm going to take my skirts in. I just bought a whole bunch of new skirts and I'm going to have to take them all in. Good problem to have, right? And then we hit December, and that was her busiest time for her business. And she said, I don't know what to do. I can't even do these 3 moves this many times a week. I know it sounds crazy, but I just can't between her other responsibilities and the extra load on her business. And I had kind of been thinking about promoting more of the curled core technique. It was tuck butt in the early years of T-TAP. And I said, Jane, I want to try this with you. Would you just be my guinea pig? And I taught her how to curl her core. Now, she couldn't do it on the floor because, as I said, she had a small house and her kids thought that was playtime. But she could do it in a chair. And she didn't have a wall free to do it against a wall because that's another way we can do it. So I taught her how to do it in a chair. And this is all, by the way, this is before we had Skype sessions and a lot of video classes. This was all through just emailing and going back and forth that way. And she was willing to try it. And so she just did that, kind of zipping up her abs and curling her core before she started working at her computer. When she took a break, she would do it several times a day. And in that month, she not only maintained, but she went on to lose another inch off of her waist. She was shocked because she thought, I'm not doing the moves. Maybe I can at least maintain and not gain. And because she was focusing on that core so much, and she just fit it in. She wasn't doing like intensive. She would just do a couple times before she started working on her computer. And when she needed a break, she would do it a couple times before she sat back down. Do it before she started dinner. And sometimes while she was waiting on her boys at their therapy appointments, she would do it then. And so she just snuck it in throughout the day. And I don't know exactly how many times. It varied. It very much varied. But it was something simple and easy once she knew how to do it, to be focusing on that core. And then that went on to help her to lose literally 4 sizes in about 6 months' time, because she learned how to activate her core during that time when she couldn't do the workouts or couldn't do the moves, where we put ourselves down sometimes saying, oh, I can't get this all in. But that's okay, because sometimes that helps us to focus more on the actual muscle activation. And in her case, it took a big mindset shift, because at first she really wasn't sure. But because we had interacted a lot on the forums and she'd worked with me a little bit before with schedules, she was willing to try it. She was willing to trust me and try that. And I was excited as well, because I learned some lessons through that. So she didn't have to start over with a whole big schedule. She didn't have to do 15 minutes, 5 days a week to lose those inches. She didn't have to, even that busy season of that month of December, she couldn't even do the 3 moves a day, 3 days a week. Normally we would think, oh, I'm going to start gaining again, but she didn't. And she indulged a little bit over the holidays too. I mean, she ate fairly healthy because of her children's sake and their various allergies they had. But we all find those ways to have treats, don't we? She didn't deny herself completely. So it wasn't like she was starving herself or on a strict eating plan during that time. She was just living life, taking care of her family, taking care of her business, doing what she could. And that mindset shift is what we've been talking about. And that's the first step, really, because if we don't change our thought pattern towards it, we're not going to believe it's going to work, and we might not even really try it. So that's in one area. It could be in healthy eating. It could be just your emotional health. In all these areas, when we find an area that kind of comes like, oh, I don't think that's going to work, why not try it? Why not try those simple steps? That's what we did. We kept it super simple. One move, and when it got down to December, just one technique. I wouldn't even call it a move. It was just one technique, but it helped her focus on what she needed to focus with, and she wasn't so overwhelmed. And she'd seen the power of the 3 moves. So again, she was willing to try it. And I said, again, I can't promise anything, but I think it might help you at least maintain. And she went on to lose a little bit more. And then it helped her in the months afterwards because of that one simple focus. And she would go back to that when life was crazy, because sometimes her children kept her up through the night because of the different issues they had. And she was exhausted the next day. She thought, oh, I can curl my core in the chair. And so she had a go-to for those hard times, which made it so doable. We kept it simple. We made it doable for her lifestyle, and we changed the mindset. That's what we both had to do about that. Because I was a little scared to put it out there, but you know what? I thought, well, I know Jane, and I've worked with her before, so I was a little more bold to do that. But see, I had to overcome that fear too. It's like, oh, she's gonna think I'm crazy. And it turned out to be a wonderful example of less is more. A wonderful example that one small thing can make such a huge difference. So I hope that's encouraging to you, because boy, it sure was encouraging then. And she had ups and downs, and we've kind of lost touch, but she definitely had ups and downs over the years, but she went back to that. And she had a really tragic thing where they lost their house in a fire. And the thing is, she thought, I can still curl my core. And it actually helped with the stress too. So there's so many things that when we do that one small thing, we don't know in the long haul how it's going to impact so many areas of our lives. So that's an encouragement for you to start small. Start with one technique, one move. Maybe just a little bit of stepping every day. Maybe you go for a short walk outside, or maybe you do like 5 minutes of stepping. Or if your kids and your animals will leave you alone, maybe you can sneak into your bedroom and do a couple floor moves. There's different things, a way to sneak in movement. One more glass of water, just helping one more step in the right direction. Adding one veggie a day, not every single day, but like one veggie. This week I'm going to add one veggie each day so that I'm eating a little bit more of the fruits and vegetable category. We don't have to do everything. We don't have to get overwhelmed trying to do all the things. We can have a plan, but then we might have to back it off a little bit. Say, what's the one micro preemie baby step, as I like to say, that can get me in that right direction? That curling the core was a micro preemie baby step for her. And then 2 to 3 moves, only 3 days a week. That was a baby step for her. and yet it worked. It took the stress off of her body, and even more so off of her mind. It took something off of her plate. She didn't have to think about it. We made a little schedule of rotating moves that she felt she could do easily, even could do maybe without having a video, because sometimes back then was the DVDs and we had to fast forward. So we tried to pick moves that if she needed to, she could remember them and do them to the best of her ability. And then when she practiced curling her core, that made even those few moves even more powerful. So remember that this is what I want for you, that when you're overwhelmed, especially if you're coming back from a time of being sick, hormones out of balance, I understand that. I'm dealing with that myself, and I have to be gentle with myself. You know, if we can't do a whole workout, even if it's a short workout, like 15 minutes, we can do 3 moves. Just do 3 moves. Do one technique. Do something. If you can't get 8 glasses of water in every day, do 1 more glass. Do half a glass. Find some way to make those small steps to success, because these little bits do add up. And in the next video, I'm going to share even more how you can do this for yourself. And I'm going to give you some tools and something exciting that I've been working on that I hope might help you take those steps. And I can come alongside of you, just like I did for Jane, and help you make those small steps to success so that you can be all that God created you to be.